The White House is expected to start meeting with potential Supreme Court candidates this week. Justice Stephen Breyer announced his decision to step down sometime over the summer, and President Joe Biden's vow to nominate a black woman has drawn a lot of fire from Republicans. On Friday, Mississippi Senator Roger Wicker said the nominee would be a beneficiary of affirmative action and would probably not get a single Republican vote.
However, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell says he will be open-minded.
One of the things I really admired about Justice Breyer is that he believed in the institution, believed that it was apolitical, and there's no way to interpret court packing other than trying to get a political outcome out of a body that's supposed to be completely independent. So look, I'm going to give the president's nominee, whoever that may be, a fair look.
A short list of nominees announced last week, but over the weekend, we learned that the list has gotten a bit longer. Joining us this morning to discuss the nominees and what this means for the future of the Supreme Court is CUNY constitutional law professor Natalie Gomez Velez. So good to see you, Natalie, and have you back right here on the morning show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So, Natalie, let's begin. President Biden says he will announce his nominee in February. Significant because it's also Black History Month, right? How quickly after that, Natalie, can we expect those confirmation hearings to begin? Last time we saw this happen, it played out very quickly.
That's right. I mean, the last justice to be appointed, Amy Coney Barrett, was within about 27 days. There have been averages, going between 80-something days, 60-something days. And President Biden is being encouraged to move quickly and decisively, although there are some who are saying haste makes waste. But I do think this is a circumstance where moving decisively is important. You've got a 50-50 Senate. On the Democratic side, there's some hope that maybe some Republicans would vote to confirm, but it's a really fragile moment.
Yeah, well, Justice Breyer expected to step down in June or July. Now, he is a moderate liberal justice, so what kind of impact do you think he will have leaving the Supreme Court?
You know, that's such a great question. It's an end of an era with Justice Breyer. He really was a moderate liberal. He was someone who believed very strongly in the institution of the Supreme Court, in institutions of government to do good. He was a consensus builder. He had this quality of like an absent-minded professor almost, because he was a pragmatist, a lot of people say, but also someone who thought about the law and who wanted it to be something that was inclusive. He tried to explain to everyday people what the structures of government were supposed to be. So, and he very strongly believed that the court was apolitical.
Right.
And now we see a court that is a 6-3 majority Republican appointees and is moving in a direction where it makes it harder and harder to see the court as apolitical.
Right, and whoever the president does pick, it's not like it's going to tip the scales in one direction, right? Last week, there were 3 names, though, that were floated around. Judge J. Michelle Childs, Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, and California Supreme Court Justice Leandra Kruger. There they are on the screen. So, Natalie, any of these candidates considered front-runner status? What do you know, and what can you tell us about their judicial experience and how this kind of goes into the decision-making?
So it seems that since the weekend, J. Michelle Childs has risen to the top. A lot of folks were speculating Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson was the front runner. And here's why. I mean, she is sitting on the D.C. Circuit. She was a former Breyer clerk, impeccable credentials, and has already been vetted, drew, I think it was 3 Republican votes in favor of her confirmation to the D.C. Circuit. So all of those things seem to say she seems a choice that's kind of a sure bet, easy, to move forward. Since then, though, J. Michelle Childs I think she's the only one that President Biden, and he's the one who says, has announced as someone being considered. And she is out of South Carolina. She's a little bit different from the others. She was scheduled, actually, she's nominated and scheduled for a hearing for a circuit court, for the D.C. Circuit, and that was for February 1st, I believe, and that was postponed. Now that she's being considered for the Supreme Court, she'd be unusual. She's not the same kinds of credentials, but very highly qualified as well.
What about this long list that was released over the weekend? It includes NYU law professor Melissa Murray. Have you ever worked with her?
I know of Melissa Murray. I have to say, the NYU folks, Melissa Murray and Sherilyn Ifill, I'm like, yay, go. Very, very smart. Also someone who translates the law for everyday understanding extremely well. Very strong credentials, clerked for Justice Sotomayor, I think on the circuit court, just
okay.
amazing. So that's one New Yorker, Sherilyn Ifill, who is just stepping down as president of the NAACP Legal Defense and Education Fund, is another name that's been floating around and would be an interesting counterpoint. Thurgood Marshall had served at the NAACP, and so folks are talking about her. The likelihood that would be a tremendous statement if she were placed. But there's this, the politics of this are at play. And so I think President Biden and the Democrats will try to thread the needle in terms of who's going to be able to get through any confirmation battles.
Yeah, that brings us to this, Natalie, because it's certainly shaping up to be an uphill battle, especially along these party lines. I remember being there for Justice Sotomayor's confirmation hearings. It was a very different atmosphere in the political climate during that time in D.C. But there's this sentiment right now prevailing among Republicans, and that this is actually an affirmative action hire. Do you think that argument is going to hold up any merit?
Absolutely not. And it's almost offensive. If you look at the Supreme Court, over 200 years, 115 justices total, right? How many women? 5. How many people of color? 3. And one, Justice Sotomayor, is a woman of color. One, right? So any claims, I mean, we should be celebrating that finally there is a stated commitment to having the court really look more like the American people. For Republicans, anybody to claim, oh, well, he made that as a campaign promise and there's some problem with that. Remember, President Reagan did the same thing, saying during his campaign he would name the first woman, Sandra Day O'Connor, to the Supreme Court. And that was something to be celebrated then, again, just looking at the history of the Supreme Court until now. So, yeah, I think that's not in good faith.
It'll be interesting to see how things play out. Natalie Gomez Velez, thank you so much for sharing your expertise and insight with us this morning. We really appreciate it.
Thanks. Great to be here.